All right, welcome back to another episode of Generally Assembled, your favorite House Republican podcast, the original Generally Assembled. We're the OG Generally Assembled. I hear a lot of people around these days claiming to have the title of Generally Assembled, but this is what we'll call this.
Well, it's like the milkshake, the farm show milkshake controversy, right? You got lawsuits being filed because people are using the wrong name. I mean, I'm just putting people on notice.
All I want to say,
we are Generally Assembled. We are the original.
Is that whether it's podcast titles or William Penn, if you come for the king, you better not miss.
I like it. Yeah, let's go right into it.
Well, I would like to, but it's been a while since we've been here. And I think, we normally devote a lot of time on this podcast to our holidays, and we didn't do that this year. We talked a little bit, I think, about Thanksgiving, but how was your Christmas?
It was honestly, and I've people asked that question after the holidays. This was just one of the best ones that I can remember a long time. It was great in terms of relaxation. I was able to kind of get a lot of the quote stuff done, the decorating and everything. I was feeling a couple days before Thanksgiving I wasn't feeling well, so I decorated the house, kind of got everything ready, and it was just, other than the time that we were down here in December, which was anything but relaxing.
Yes. But
back home, it was fantastic. Boys had a great Christmas. Had mom and dad in, and the boys for Christmas dinner, and didn't burn anything. It was. I think everything turned out well. But it was great. Great holiday. Christmas Eve was on a Sunday this year. So for those of us who participate in Sunday worship services and Christmas Eve services, of which I played accompanied on the piano for 4 services that day. So morning, 2 in the afternoon, 1 11 o'clock at night. So it was just a fantastic Christmas Eve of going from church to church and celebrating with folks, and I really enjoyed it. How about yourself?
Also great.
And you've got little, my boys are 17 and 15, so yeah. Christmas is a little bit different for them than I'm sure it was for you.
My son is much younger, so I spent I spent 2 hours on Christmas Eve after my son went to bed, putting together this Paw Patrol lookout tower. It's a big, it's not like a giant thing, but it's.
He's not going to be listening to this, right?
No,
okay,
and right. This was very clearly a non-Santa.
Gotcha. This was a Jason.
Yeah, this was a mom and dad gift.
So Paw Patrol, you put it together.
Paw Patrol put it together. It took me 2 hours. I'm not very good at putting those things together. Like I don't have the patience for it. It's just not. It's one of those things where I don't like to do it, so I don't do it well because I don't have the motivation to get it done.
And there's pressure too. You know what I mean? There's pressure in putting these things together. I'm trying to think of what the toughest thing was for me with the boys when they were younger. But first of all, it's happening late. You're tired.
Yes.
And you don't really want to read every piece of the instruction manual.
Right. This is like between 9:30 and 11:30 at night.
Right.
And my wife is very good with this stuff. She'll whip that thing together in about 30 minutes.
But by the way, the day leading up to that's not exactly been relaxing and stress free normally anyway.
Well, correct. Because being Catholic, actually, I had to go to Mass twice that day.
Right.
So I went in the morning and then I went in the evening. I didn't do 4 times like you, and I wasn't playing the piano, but but it's a day filled with a lot of stuff, and then cooking, of course. So you spend all day doing stuff, and I am not nearly as sharp at night as I am during the day. So
wow, that's saying something.
Well, I know. That's fair. It's fair. It's fair. It's fair. Hey, look, I don't fight back against fair criticism. Well, long story short, I spent a lot of time putting this together, and the troubling part for me are their stickers. These little stickers. Oh yeah,
and they got to get on just right,
just perfect. And my hands, my fingers are thick. So that, getting these small spaces is really tough.
And stickers on, same like with a bike or something, trying to get the decals to get on the right spot.
That was very frustrating.
Impossible, yeah.
And of course, I'm a perfectionist, at least I try to be. And so anytime that sticker ended up a hair's inch off of where it was supposed to be, you're trying to take it back off and you can't do it, and then it looked even worse.
Right.
So anyway, we put this Paw Patrol toy and the accompanying chase and vehicle as the first thing he would see when he came out. Now, this wasn't like his big Christmas ask, but the way our house is, there's like a little hallway, and then we put a little table there where we put this Paw Patrol thing. So it'll be the very first thing he saw when he got up. And he comes out, and the first words out of his mouth are, "That's not the real lookout tower."
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, man.
Oh. Well, these kids are spoiled. All right, what time was that?
In the morning?
What time did he get up?
It's like 6:30.
All right, that's not bad.
No.
See, once the boys hit 17 and 15, you don't have to worry about the whole like 5:30 a.m. Bouncing in and like, hey guys, mom, dad, it's time. But
it's really great because he's fully invested in Santa now, so it's really that sweet part of Christmas. It was the first year,
and that's how he knew. That was how he knew that wasn't from Santa. Wasn't real.
Yes. Although
all right, Dad, nice try.
The funny part now is that he found the box that it came in, and it's got all of the Paw Patrol vehicles that come with it, and he's like, well, I need more Paw Patrol toys now. Like, I just can't deal with the 5 that I have. I need the whole collection.
Man, these kids are going corporate these days.
That's all right. He's going
to be a good negotiator someday.
He doesn't take no for an answer. Let me tell you. Yeah, well, that was good. Other than that, we did our Christmas Day tradition of undercooking the New York strip roast and having dinner be 2 hours later than we told everybody it was going to be. So
that's become a tradition.
That's an annual Christmas tradition.
Good. Well, all right, let's talk holiday food for a minute, because obviously those of us who know Jason, myself, and Chuck, our producer here, understand that one thing we all like is food, right?
Yes.
We like to talk about food. So here's what I decided after last year, because I'm hosting a lot of the events at my house now, and last year Mom had a turkey. She's like, I'll get the turkey, but you cook it. And I just realized after last year with this turkey, and we've all cooked turkeys for years, is that at the end of the day, I don't like turkey enough to go through that hell. Mm-hmm. You're wrestling with this bird. You're doing everything to try and get it just right. You got to cook it for your kitchen is 1,000 billion degrees by the time it's all done. And at the end of the day, it's not that, like, if someone hands me a plate of turkey, I'll eat it. But it's not worth it. So if my choice is ham or, chicken or just steak, like that's I'm moving the holidays away from turkey. I've just decided that in my world, Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're moving away. I like ham loaf. Like, there's a lot of things that I like holiday tradition protein-wise more than turkey, and it's just not worth that's what I have now determined in my life. Turkey, not worth the effort.
Well, we don't do turkey in our house and any other time other than Thanksgiving. That's it. That's the turkey day. We don't do turkey throughout the year. We don't do turkey on any other holidays. It's Thanksgiving.
Do they sell turkey? Do they do turkey because I'm a dark meat guy. I like dark meat, so that's why you could just get a turkey breast. I could, but I could also just eat plastic. But what do they sell? I wonder if they sell like turkey just kind of already shredded up, like in the two different dark and light.
I don't know the answer to that. I know though you can go to like Honey Baked Ham or something and get a fully cooked turkey already done.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to do any of the work. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if, around the Thanksgiving season, stores kind of go into this ultra, you don't have to do anything, we'll take care of it mode of food delivery. Although I will say, and there's a long story behind this, which I'm not going to share on this podcast, but the best Thanksgiving meal, one of the best meals I've ever had on Thanksgiving was at Cracker Barrel by myself on Thanksgiving. Yeah. Now, listen, it's a funny story. But
you have told me that story.
I have told you that story. Yes,
you've told me that story.
That if you want a no fuss, no muss Thanksgiving dinner, Cracker Barrel will cater.
And
you can
by
go
the way,
pick it up.
And Cracker Barrel for Thanksgiving. Just everybody put this in their memory bank. It sounds like we're sponsored by Cracker Barrel today, but great. So I'm a big country fried steak guy.
Yeah.
They do country fried turkey.
Yep,
fantastic. I at least once a year near Thanksgiving, I like to go to Cracker Barrel and get the country fried turkey. So there's another option for folks.
Well, this is a great time for us to tell our fans that we are in fact being sponsored by Cracker Barrel. And if you head to Cracker Barrel today, you'll find use promo code Generally Assembled 15.
Great thing about Cracker Barrel during the holidays, you get a great meal. You do all your shopping there in the little shop for everybody you need that you can't think of what to get them, right? And then you leave, and it's fantastic. So
nothing wrong with Cracker Barrel whatsoever. But you know what's wrong with what we've been doing? We're 10 minutes into this podcast, and we are have not talked about a single substantive policy thing.
And I think it's you say what's wrong with this podcast. I think our listeners are probably, this is what's right.
But actually, you know what, you are probably right, because so many wannabe podcasts in this caucus do nothing but talk about hard policy.
Listen, people want to know. There's the problem with politics in America. Well, okay.
You're talking about peeling back the layers of the onion.
Here's one of the problems with politics in America is we tend not to see people as real people. Like
That's true.
all the time I hear, I hate
true.
Senator so-and-so. Oh, when did you meet them? Or I hate, you've never met them. You might hate their policies, or you might not like something they said or something or a bill they wrote, but you don't know them, right? The great thing about this podcast is we talk like normal people would talk. I tell when I speak to college kids in this environment today, I kind of always start with like, when you introduce yourself, how do you introduce you? Hi, I'm Jesse Topper. I'm a conservative Republican. No, like that's not how you start.
Yeah, that's true.
Get to a place where people can trust you. They like you. They enjoy talking to you. And then when you work in and you enter into that politics discussion, it's just like, okay, well, we might disagree, but I already know this person is a good person, right? Or I enjoy talking to them. And then you can actually get to the art of persuasion easier. That's the problem with social media. Twitter's not meant to persuade. Right? Twitter's meant to, antagonize or instigate, which if you want to do that, that's the but if you really want to, you do. That's why I'm bringing it up. But if you want to persuade people to your side, right?
Yeah.
That takes in-depth conversation. You can only have that in-depth conversation if you have a certain amount of trust. So, try and build on that. I love the fact that we talk about more than policy on this podcast. And I would probably say that most of our listeners enjoy that part of it more.
Yeah, I mean, we're people in this world, and you more so than I, because you actually have to stand for election and represent people and are answerable to them. I'm just a staffer, but ultimately, I think you're right on two fronts. One is that so often it's so easy for people that are literally on the outside of the bubble here to sling arrows at people that they don't know. Right. You don't know them. You don't know their perspective. You don't know what's behind a vote or a position or why they got somewhere, and you don't know who they are or what brought them there. But similarly, it's much harder to actually find out what's behind that when you feel like somebody is unapproachable, and people become unapproachable when it seems like they're almost not people.
That's right.
Right. That they're this guy only does this. This representative or senator, regardless of their gender, does not, they're not at the baseball games, they're not in the community. They're just some person who's in Harrisburg, who does dumb stuff that I don't like. And so I'm going to send them a nasty gram through their website and tell them I don't like their face.
Because a lot of my views that I have, I'll take education, which is what I talk about a lot in my role as the Republican chair on Education Committee. They don't just come out of thin air. They come from your life experiences. So the more you understand someone's background and their life experiences, the more you can understand where they're coming from in terms of their policy views. I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
My dad was a public school teacher. I got to see a lot of different sides of education. I understand how important school choice is. I also understand how important the job of an educator is in the life of a kid, because I've seen it. So, I think we can all pull back on, pull from those experiences, which help shape our views today on public policy. And so the more that you get into that, somebody's life experiences and their background, the more you understand their views on policy and why they think a certain way. And I'm at that point with my boys, especially one who's 17, getting, looking at schools, wants to go to college. We've talked about, play golf in college, and I'm like, look, your views, how you've been raised, the things you've been taught, some of those will be challenged, and that's okay. Most of the time, when my views are challenged, I come out stronger on those views. It sharpens me.
Sure.
But you have to know what you believe going into it. And this is a topic of higher education all across. There's an inherent distrust, particularly among conservatives now, of higher education. And that distrust has been earned by these institutions, right? But the way you restore that, the way you don't just separate yourself from these institutions, you try and get back into them, right? You try and say, though, we're gonna come back and we're gonna look to change that view, that worldview of what higher education is, how it works. We need the institutions to be on board, and we need parents and kids to be strong when they go in there. Listen, some of your views might be shaped by experiences there, but you also have to go in with an anchor. You got to go in with a base of what you believe. So that means we have to do a good job in terms of our family structure to make sure those kids who choose that route are ready for that. All of that is part of our current talk on higher education. I do believe it's one thing that the governor highlighted in his budget address. I think they're going to have some rollouts here pretty soon of some changes that they want to see in higher education. What we're doing with Penn, University of Penn, to try and say, hey, you guys have a lot of trust to restore here.
Yep.
And we need to be a part of that. What we did with the state relateds in terms of the accountability structure, what we did with PASHE,
Yep.
The integration of the system. So, it's a passion of mine and kind of, I think, a good place for this caucus to go is to say we need to restore the trust between our institutions of higher education and our families, and because right now there's a pretty significant chasm there.
Well, there is, and a lot of the things that we've done or we're trying to do, they're not monumental, but they are transformational. They can transform how people view institutions of higher education, and they can also transform how these institutions behave towards not only their student but also whatever public mission. Because regardless of whether they're public or private, every institution of higher education, every institution of education, on some level serves the public. You're preparing students to enter into the world. That is as public as it gets. You are preparing people to live among society, and so these little things that we've been working on: transparency, protecting students, creating a safe learning environment for everybody. Those aren't things that people will raise a flag on the top of a mountain over, but there are ways in which you can have transformational change at these schools, at these institutions, to not only restore public confidence and public trust, but to refocus these institutions on mission.
That's right.
And that's really what we've seen, is that they've been unfocused.
An academic rigor is the number one mission.
Yeah.
Yes, you go when you go to school, there are certain lessons outside of the world of academia that you will learn, right? It's the age that kids are at, but number one, we have to have strong academic institutions.
Yep.
And I think I point to what the Chancellor and the General Assembly have worked on in terms of PASHE. Again, transformational change, the idea of integrating universities. I mean, if you would have brought that up a dozen years ago, you'd have been laughed out of the room. It's happening now. What does that do? It makes it more accessible. It makes it more affordable. It makes it more manageable, which opens that world of possibilities to a new, maybe kids that wouldn't have been able to do that, or even adults that are looking to start a new career or need to upskill or reskill. All of these things, we're seeing change. The problem with academia on every level, but particularly in higher education, is it's so slow to change because it's never had to.
Yeah.
Right? It has to change now. And I think we, as House Republicans, but as a General Assembly in total, we need to be at the forefront of talking about that change. Status quo doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help our families. And frankly, it doesn't help the institutions either.
Sure. And look, there's so much that goes into these institutions of higher education, right? When you look at a place, I always think of Penn State, because I've worked for not only, when I worked for Congressman Keller, that was part of our district there, but also when I worked for, Representative Benninghoff, we had interaction a lot with Penn State. And having been there a number of times and seeing, look, the school and the academics there are one thing, but it's the ability to use the best and brightest students, the best and brightest professors, to then leverage that into research and projects for the government or innovation for the private sector.
Healthcare sector.
Right. All of those things go into what makes these institutions of higher education great, why we want them to be mission focused. Because when you are mission focused, and when you said, like you said, the academic rigor, when we have schools that are focused on the academics, on creating the best students, of course that's going to drive research grants. That's going to drive the ability for money to come into the schools, because they want the best and brightest people working on these projects. The innovation that's seen when people have the ability to not only learn, but to take what they've learned and then innovate, is truly, truly impressive.
Yeah. And while that's going on, the biggest ask is don't manipulate values.
Right.
Right. If you're going to be a campus of free speech, then everybody gets to speak. I have no trouble if you bring some liberal ideologue on campus to spout Marxism. That's fine, but then you better allow everybody on, right? Or and I think that's where we're at as well. Is I'm a free speech kind of guy, right?
Sure.
Like, let's bring everybody on. But allow everybody equal opportunity, or shut it all off and say, that's not what this school's about. You're coming here to learn what we want to teach you and what you're signing. We're not doing the whole outside dog and pony show. That's fine too, but it's got to be one or the other. Don't try and manipulate or have people perceive that you're trying to manipulate values that you're creating through ideology. And I think, again, there's a lot of trust that has to be restored, but I really feel like part of our big wins this year from a minority standpoint in the House has been in this world, and I'm hoping that continues into this year.
Well, and I think that's what was so disappointing about what we heard from the former president of Penn in the congressional testimony and all those university presidents, is they tried to hide behind this pillar of free speech when they have such a terrible track record on free speech to begin with, right? So it would be one thing if there was a rigorous defense throughout the entire time on all viewpoints, and they said, look, we need to be fully committed to freedom of speech. I think that they would have had some credibility there. Well, the problem is when you've been spending years picking and choosing, just like you said, who you want to come on campus, what viewpoints are allowable, what viewpoints articulate the school's values, and then you go, well, no, we have to rigorously stand behind free speech when we're looking at student conduct. And
also understand the difference between political speech and calling for the genocide of an entire people.
Sure.
When you can't answer the question of is genocide or the calling for genocide contrary to your code of conduct, if you can't answer that question with a simple yes it is, then you got a problem. And that's like you said, when you blur the line so much over the years of what we're going to pick and choose, and then something like that comes out, I think it was the final straw for multiple of those testifiers who are no longer in those jobs.
Yeah, well, and from our end, we have taken some steps to try to work with Penn. I think we're still waiting to hear back from them as to how they want to proceed. But it's going to be critically important for them to start moving. I know schools do work with a winter break and such, and that's understandable. But we're getting to crunch time here, where the Penn Vet money is, it's going to be a topic of interest when we return in March, and certainly as we prepare for budget hearings in February, where we hear from a lot of these schools. But even more so, it's going to be one of those things that hey, look, in less than 6 months, we're going to be into a new budget year, and if some of these issues aren't resolved,
they just carry into the next one.
They continue to carry over, and so I think it's important for us, and for them to really start moving towards a path where everybody can feel satisfied.
Well, again, restoring, it's like the phrase I used before, restoring trust. That's what this is about.
Well, look, and I felt like Penn Vet was caught, sort of in an unfortunate position until I saw a faculty letter that went out about these issues, and it allowed Penn Vet faculty to sign on to it. You can't say that you're a separate entity on the one hand, and then all of a sudden start including yourself, into the larger campus public discourse.
Absolutely. Look, and this is, it is part of that trust restoration that they are a part of as well, Penn Vet. I've said that it can't just be about when the other person's quote house is kind of a mess. When your own house needs cleaned up, you got to recognize it, or you lose credibility.
Yep.
And those of us who have supported Penn Vet for many years, we believe that's part of our house as well that needs cleaned up. So I have no trouble with what took place and the remedies that are now occurring to try and fix it.
No, look, you can't have accountability if you don't hold people accountable.
Bingo. You can't have accountability if you don't hold yourself accountable.
That's true too.
And that's really, that from sports to politics, whatever in life is a really good lesson for us. I've heard that a lot with Republicans over the years. The whole, oh well, they do it. The other side does this, or the media does that. At the end of the day, I'm not responsible for anybody else but my own accountability, right? And that it has to start with me. What am I willing to do? And I think that's a good place for all of us to look in the mirror.
That's right. Well, I don't look in the mirror very often. Try not to anyway. Same reason I don't know to scale.
The metaphorical mirror for some of us.
Well, before we get to a very important topic of conversation, especially for this time of year, I just want to say to all the fans of William Penn and the people who want to get rid of him, come and take it.
Listen. Of all the things we end up debating, once again, just lunacy. It's that this has become something that we're going to. My gosh, our Commonwealth is named after the man, for crying out loud.
Well, it's named after his father.
Well, that's true. That's the statue they're coming for is his father. Listen, if there's a town of toppers somewhere, it might be named after my dad, but
you're going to take credit for it?
I'm going to take credit for it.
Which is actually a fact that I did not know until actually this happened. Yeah. My 4th grade Pennsylvania lessons must have left me a long time ago. But look, it's beginning of January here, and beginning of January in Pennsylvania means one thing. It's farm show time. And I know you've been out to the farm show. You're going to continue, it's... a
lot of constituents out there. It's a great showcase for Pennsylvania, great showcase for the ag industry, our top industry here in the Commonwealth. I always enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the kids who are showing, the 4-H'ers. I will the milkshake flavor this year. The new one is the salted caramel. So I intend to try that because, look, I feel like it's part of my duty to anytime there's a new flavor to try it and then report back on this podcast. I feel like that's part of my job here. So I will be trying that at some point. And it's going to be, really looking forward to spending some time the next couple of days with all the good people at the farm show. And encourage anybody who can come out, please do make it a point at some point to get out and see it.
The last time I was at the farm show, I had my first and only time, which was a few years ago, I had so many milkshakes that my stomach hurt for 2 days. I think I had 5.
Yeah, lightweight.
In a span of like 3 hours.
Lightweight.
I couldn't stop. Yeah. I couldn't. I had no self-control. Which is also why I don't look in the mirror or look at the scale.
Well, they're so good. They're so good.
They are delicious. All right. Well, good luck to everybody showing at the farm show this week.
Absolutely.
It's a huge week for Pennsylvania agriculture, and we have to talk about it. Tiger Woods and Nike breaking up.
Yeah, not surprising when I saw that Nike is laying off people. They're having to cut, I think, $2 billion out of their budget. I think I saw that number somewhere. So clearly they're scaling back. It's iconic. Like, you think of Tiger and you think of Nike, it's kind of iconic. But also Tiger is his own brand. He is his own brand, right? If he comes out, if whatever says TW on it.
But Nike owned that. All that TW stuff was all Nike.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's some kind of...
And you're right, but look, Tiger Woods was the new Jordan for Nike. When he came on the scene, he... Jordans are still, classic. Everybody wants one. He
was the only one to use Nike clubs. Which were considered. You remember the whole incident with Phil Mickelson?
No, I've seen some square drivers out there still.
But you remember Mickelson's like he's the only guy that can win with inferior equipment. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you can't say that. But it was like, the guy put Nike golf on the map, even beyond the apparel.
That's true.
It's just, but hey, all good things must come to an end. And Tiger's at a different stage of his career. He's definitely more of the ambassador now as opposed to the stone cold killer on the course that would just, go out and destroy the field. That's really not him anymore. You watch him caddy for his kid, Charlie, and he's definitely in a new world. So I don't think it's going to really affect either one all that much from where they are now. But it is great to look back on the brand. Now, I happen to think that the pressure of the Nike brand, when you read a lot on Tiger, probably was one of his downfalls in terms of his personal life. A lot of that pressure to promote something that he didn't feel comfortable with in his own image. The man lived, not just played, but lived with the kind of pressure that none of us will ever be able to imagine.
He grew up in the public eye. He's
in a way that was different than most.
He was playing at Riviera when he was in his teens, right. And he won the U.S. Junior Am 3 times, U.S. Amateur 3 times. Talk about living a life of living up to the expectations other people have of you. That's an incredible pressure. No matter whether you're a golfer, whether you're a writer, whether you're a politician, when you live under the weight of other people's expectations,
even the strongest, it'll have an effect.
2 golfers to watch out for this year.
Okay.
Akshay Bhatia and Ludvig Aberg.
It's Akshay is who my son Josh was rooting for. He sent me
love Akshay.
Yeah, he was rooting for him at the Century. And
Ludvig Aberg is going to be a stone-cold killer out on that golf course. The man is Scandinavian. You look at his face, he has no feelings. He's like Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Wow. Like, he is.
Yeah, all right. So those are the two kind of newcomers.
And I also feel like it's gonna be a good year for Jordan Spieth too. I think he's been working hard. He's refocused, ready to go. But Akshay Bhatia, Ludwig Aberg, he killed us during the Ryder Cup. Man, Aberg just destroyed
I don't want to talk about
us.
it. I don't want to talk about it.
It's coming, man. The Swedish connection and the LPGA Tour and on the PGA Tour, it's happening. All right. Well, that's generally assembled for this week. We will see you again at some point in the very near future. But for Representative Topper, our producer Chuck, I'm Jason Gottesman. This has been generally assembled, the original. Beep, boop, beep.